Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Nights. This is Kevin, and tonight we'll embark on a serene journey to explore the timeless history of yoga and meditation. But first, let's take a moment to relax and settle. Allow your body to find its natural alignment with the earth beneath you. Feel how the earth supports you. Notice how your body makes contact with the surface below, perhaps at your heels, your calves, your back. Bring your awareness to the space between your eyebrows, letting go any tension there. Just let it dissolve. Then allow that same gentle release to flow down through your jaw, your neck, your shoulders. It feels like it's cascading, like a silent waterfall of calm through your chest, your abdomen, your legs, all the way to your toes. As you exhale, release any thoughts of the day. Your breath becomes a bridge between past and present, connecting you to an ancient lineage of those who found peace through simple awareness. Notice the natural rhythm of your breathing, how it continues effortlessly. This same miracle of breath has been the foundation of meditation since its earliest beginnings, thousands of years ago. Now, as your body rests in perfect stillness and your mind begins to quiet, join me on a journey through the mists of time to discover the origins of practices that continue to bring serenity to our modern world. Our story begins over 5,000 years ago in the fertile valley of the Indus River in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India. Here, one of the world's earliest urban civilizations flourished in cities of remarkable sophistication. Streets were laid out in perfect grids. Homes had indoor plumbing, and artisans created exquisite artifacts that have survived to the present day. Among the thousands of small carved seals discovered at sites like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, archaeologists have found intriguing evidence of early meditative practices. One famous seal, known as Pashupati, shows a figure seated in a cross-legged posture, remarkably similar to modern meditation poses. Some scholars believe this may represent an early proto-Shiva figure, lord of animals, and possibly of early yogic practices. Imagine the silence of those ancient mornings as the first light of dawn illuminated the brick buildings along the Indus River. Perhaps even then, solitary practitioners would find quiet corners to sit in stillness, connecting with something beyond the bustle of daily life in these sophisticated early cities. The people of the Indus Valley lived in harmony with the rhythm of nature, their lives governed by the monsoon seasons and the river's flow. This deep connection to natural cycles may have inspired some of the earliest forms of movement and breath practices that would eventually evolve into what we now recognize as yoga. In these ancient settlements, daily life followed the natural rhythms of sunrise and sunset. Imagine the gentle transition from night to day as the first rays of light touch the eastern horizon. Perhaps it was in these quiet moments that early practitioners developed their awareness of the breath, noticing how it naturally rises and falls like the great river that sustained their civilization. Archaeological evidence suggests these early urban dwellers had sophisticated understanding of astronomy and natural cycles. They constructed buildings with precise alignments to celestial events, demonstrating a deep awareness of humanity's place within the cosmos. This awareness of greater patterns might have naturally led to contemplative practices, sitting quietly to observe the movement of stars, the changing of seasons, and perhaps the subtle energies within their own bodies. The spiritual practices of this period likely included ritual bathing in specially designed pools found at archaeological sites. These great baths may have been places for purification rituals that combined physical cleansing with mental clarity. Early forms of the mind-body integration that would become central to yoga traditions. Imagine the sound of water gently lapping against the stone steps as practitioners descended into cool, clear pools for ceremonies that connected them to the sacred waters that gave life to their civilization. As the cool evening breezes drifted across the river plains, these ancient people may have gathered to share wisdom through stories and practices, handing down techniques for cultivating inner peace that would eventually spread throughout the subcontinent and beyond. As the Indus Valley civilization gradually transformed, a new cultural movement emerged with the composition of the Vedas, ancient sacred texts that form the foundation of early Hindu traditions. The oldest of these texts, the Rig Veda, contains hymns and mantras that were carefully memorized and passed down through generations of priests. Within these sacred verses are references to tapas, a disciplined practice of inner heat and austerity, and to prana, the life force carried by the breath. These concepts would be fundamental to later yogic traditions. Imagine sitting beside a sacred fire at dawn as Vedic priests performed elaborate rituals, their voices chanting in Sanskrit, creating patterns of sound believed to maintain the very order of the universe. The precise breathing and concentration required for these extended chants may have been among the earliest form of breath control practices, precursors to what later would be called pranayama. The Vedic rituals were performed with extraordinary attention to detail. Each gesture, each syllable, each offering to the sacred fire had to be executed with perfect precision. This cultivation of single-pointed awareness, the ability to maintain unwavering attention on a specific action or object, developed mental qualities that would later become essential in meditation practices. The priests would rise before dawn, purify themselves with water and prayers, and enter a special mental state to perform these intricate ceremonies that could last for hours or even days. Picture a Vedic village at sunrise, with the smell of sacred wood smoke rising into the crisp morning air. The measured cadence of Sanskrit chanting creates rhythmic sound patterns that induce altered states of consciousness in both the chanters and the listeners. The fire ritual, known as Yagya, forms the centerpiece of community spiritual life, with flames leaping upward to symbolize the connection between earthly and divine realms. During this period, sages known as rishis would retreat to forests and mountains, seeking direct experience of higher truths. In the cool shade of trees, or in simple huts built from forest materials, these seekers developed practices of breath control, sensory withdrawal, and deep contemplation. The lifestyle of these forest-dwelling sages was very simple and deeply attuned to natural cycles. Rising with the sun, bathing in cool forest streams, gathering only what food was necessary for sustenance. Their entire existence became a form of moving meditation. In the profound silence of remote forests, punctuated only by bird calls and the rustling of leaves, these dedicated practitioners could turn their awareness inward to explore the nature of consciousness itself. Their insights were eventually collected in the Upanishads, philosophical texts composed between 800 and 500 BCE. These profound works explored concepts like Brahman, the ultimate reality, Atman, the true self, and the relationship between consciousness, existence, and bliss. The Chandogya Upanishad, one of the oldest of these texts, contains the famous teaching Tat Devam Ashi, thou art that, pointing to the identity between individual consciousness and universal consciousness, a realization that comes through deep meditation rather than intellectual understanding alone. These texts describe meditation as a means to directly experience these truths, marking one of the earliest written accounts of formal meditation practice. The peaceful forest settings where many of these texts were composed still evoke a sense of tranquility when visited today, as if the very air remains charged with centuries of meditative practices. As the classical period dawned across the Indian subcontinent, a sage known as Patanjali composed what would become the foundational text of classical yoga philosophy, the Yoga Sutras. Written sometime between the 2nd century and the 4th century, this concise collection of 196 aphorisms provided a systematic approach to yoga as a path to samadhi, a state of profound concentration and enlightenment. Patanjali organized yoga into 8 limbs or stages, known as Ashtanga Yoga. These begin with ethical principles and personal observances, then progress through physical postures, breath control, sensory withdrawal, concentration, and meditation. At the same time, another transformative figure was developing his own approach to meditation. Siddhartha Gautama would become known as the Buddha, or awakened one, who sat beneath the spreading branches of the Bodhi tree near Bodh Gaya in northern India. After extended meditation, he experienced a profound awakening that formed the foundation of Buddhist traditions. The Buddha taught mindfulness meditation as a central practice on the path to liberation from suffering. His technique of vipassana, or insight meditation, involved close attention to the changing nature of body and mind, leading to deep wisdom about impermanence and interconnectedness. Imagine walking through the peaceful grounds of ancient monasteries that began to appear across India during this period. In the cool morning hours, hundreds of monks in saffron robes would sit in perfectly still rows, their breath creating a subtle rhythm as they trained their minds in the Buddha's meditation techniques. Meanwhile, adherents of Jainism, another ancient Indian tradition, were developing their own rigorous practices of meditation, focused on purifying the soul through non-violence and self-discipline. The Jain emphasis on ahimsa, or non-harm to all living beings, would later become an important principle and yogic ethics as well. By the end of this classical period, both yoga and meditation had developed sophisticated philosophical frameworks and systematic practices, setting the stage for further evolution in the centuries to come. As we move into the medieval period, yoga began to transform from primarily a philosophical and meditative practice into something that incorporated more physical elements. The development of Hatha Yoga marked a significant evolution, with greater emphasis on purifying the body through physical postures, cleansing practices, and energetic locks. Imagine standing at the edge of a sacred site, like the Ellora or Elephanta caves in central India, where stone carvings from this period depict yogic deities in various poses. Dawn light gradually illuminates these ancient figures, revealing postures that would become foundational to modern yoga practice. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint scent of incense from morning rituals. Around the 10th century, tantric traditions brought new dimensions to both Hindu and Buddhist practices. Tantra emphasized the sacredness of the body and the material world, viewing them not as obstacles to spiritual growth, but as vehicles for awakening. These traditions introduced new visualization techniques and subtle body practices, working with chakras, energy centers aligned along the spine, and nadis, channels through which vital energy flows. The 15th century text, Hatha Yoga Pradipika, composed by Swami Svatvrama, codified many physical practices and became one of the most influential yogic texts. It describes specific asanas, breathing techniques, mudras, or energy seals, and stages of meditative absorption. During this same period, meditation practices were spreading throughout Asia, along with Buddhist teachings. In China, Chan Buddhism emerged, emphasizing direct experience of one's true nature through meditation. This tradition later traveled to Japan, where it became Zen Buddhism. Zen masters guided students towards sudden awakening through practices like zazen, seated meditation, and koans, paradoxical riddles designed to break through logical thinking. Just imagine sitting in a perfectly maintained Zen garden where carefully arranged rocks and raked gravel create patterns that calm the mind and invite contemplation. The simplicity and harmony of these settings reflect the direct, uncluttered approach to meditation that characterizes Zen. In Tibet, complex forms of visualization meditation developed within Vajrayana Buddhism. Practitioners would visualize elaborate mandalas, sacred cosmic diagrams, and deity figures as means to transform consciousness, realize the empty, luminous nature of the mind. By the end of this medieval period, both yoga and meditation had diversified into numerous schools and approaches, each with distinct practices and philosophical underpinnings, yet all aimed at the transformation of human consciousness. As we enter the pre-modern era, the spiritual landscape of India saw the flourishing of the Bhakti movement, emphasizing devotion and the direct, emotional connection to the divine. Bhakti yogis like Mirabai and Tulsidas expressed their spiritual longing through poetry and song, creating works that are still performed today. Imagine standing in a crowded temple courtyard at dusk, oil lamps casting flickering light on devotees, singing kirtan devotional songs that repeat divine names. The repetitive melodies and rhythms create a meditative state as voices blend together in joyful expression. This form of bhakti practice demonstrates how meditation had been integrated into various aspects of daily life and communal worship. During this period, the Sikh tradition emerged, founded by Guru Nanak in the 15th century. Sikh practices included Nam Siran, a meditation technique involving the repetitive remembrance of divine qualities. Early morning hours were dedicated to this practice, as the first light of dawn symbolized spiritual illumination. Meanwhile, in the mountains of southwestern China, traditions like Taoism continue to develop meditation practices focused on cultivating and circulating qi, or life energy, through the body. These included movement forms like Tai Chi and Qi Gong, which can be understood as moving meditations that balance body, breath, and mind. By the 18th and 19th centuries, European scholars and travelers began encountering yoga and meditation practices, leading to the first translations of key texts into Western languages. This marked the beginning of a cross-cultural exchange that would eventually transform these ancient practices in surprising ways. The modern era of yoga began with a remarkable event in 1893, when a young monk named Swami Vivekananda addressed the Parliament of the World's Religions in Chicago. His powerful presentation introduced yoga philosophy to a Western audience, emphasizing its universal applicability and scientific approach to spiritual growth. Swami's message was revolutionary for its time. He presented Hinduism's complex philosophical systems to Western audiences in clear, accessible language, emphasizing yoga as a practical method for direct spiritual experience rather than blind belief. During his subsequent lecture tours across America and Europe, he established Vedanta societies in major cities, creating the first formal organizations teaching yoga philosophy in the Western world. Just imagine him walking through the bustling streets of New York or London, his orange robes drawing curious glances as he carried ancient wisdom into modern urban centers. His book, Raja Yoga, published in 1896, introduced many Westerners to meditation techniques and the psychological aspects of yoga for the first time, describing them in terms that resonated with the scientific mindset of the era. In India, meanwhile, a quiet renaissance of Hatha Yoga was underway. In the royal city of Mysore, a teacher named Krishna Macharya began systemizing physical yoga practices drawing on Hatha Yoga texts, traditional Indian wrestling exercises, British military calisthenics, and the princely gymnastic traditions of India. Krishna Acharya taught from a yoga shala within a palace, where early morning practice would begin as the first rays of sunlight illuminated the ornate architecture. His approach emphasized coordinating movement with breath, precise alignment, and adapting practices to individual needs. Among his students were several who would become the most influential yoga teachers of the 20th century. BKS Iyengar, Padabi Joyce, Indra Devi, and Desi Gachar. The story of Iyengar is particularly remarkable. As a sickly young man suffering from tuberculosis, he was sent to study with Krishna Acharya, who was married to Iyengar's sister. Through dedicated practice, he transformed his health and went on to develop a precise alignment-focused approach, using props to make poses accessible to all bodies. His 1966 book, Light on Yoga, with its detailed instructions and photographs of 200 asanas, came known as the Bible of modern yoga and has been translated into 23 languages. Padapi Joyce systemized the flowing style of Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga, teaching set sequences of postures linked by movement and breath. His small shala in Mysore eventually became a pilgrimage site for yoga practitioners from around the world, who had come for months at a time to learn challenging Ashtanga system directly from the source. Indra Devi, a Russian woman who became one of Krishnamacharya's first female students, would introduce yoga to Hollywood celebrities. Her studio in Hollywood attracted stars like Gloria Swanson and Greta Garbo, helping to popularize yoga among influential cultural figures. As these teachers shared their knowledge, interest in yoga's physical practices grew rapidly in the West. At the same time, meditation was finding new audiences through figures like D.T. Suzuki, who introduced Zen Buddhism to American intellectuals, and Paramahansa Yogananda, whose book, Autobiography of a Yogi, inspired countless seekers. Yogananda arrived in Boston in 1920 to to speak at the International Congress of Religious Liberals, and he found an eager audience for teachings that combined Eastern spirituality with Western pragmatism. His organization, the Self-Realization Fellowship, established meditation centers throughout America, teaching Kriya Yoga, a meditation technique focusing on energy control and spiritual development. Scientific interest in meditation also began during this period. In the 1950s and 60s, researchers began documenting the physiological effects of meditation, including changes in brainwave activity, metabolism, and stress response. The scientific validation helped present meditation as a practical tool for well-being, rather than merely a spiritual or religious practice. Experiments conducted found that yogis could consciously control bodily functions previously thought to be automatic, such as heart rate and body temperature. One famous study documented a yogi who could stop his heart from beating for several seconds, a demonstration that challenged Western medical assumptions about the divisions between voluntary and involuntary physical processes. The counterculture movement of the 1960s embraced Eastern spiritual practices with unprecedented enthusiasm. When the Beatles studied with Maharishi Mahesh, yogi in India, they helped popularize transcendental meditation, a simple technique involving the silent repetition of a mantra in the mind. Just imagine serene banks of the Ganges, where ashrams housed Western seekers eager to learn meditation. The sound of temple bells would blend with the river's flow as new practitioners sat on cushions, their faces reflecting both concentration and wonder as they explored these ancient techniques. Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh introduced mindfulness practices in accessible, non-religious forms, teaching walking meditation and mindful breathing as tools for peace during the turbulent Vietnam War. His gentle guidance helped countless people find calm amid chaos. Jon Kabat-Zinn, drawing on Buddhist mindfulness practices, developed mindfulness-based stress reduction in 1979, creating a structured secular program that could be taught in medical settings. This approach helped bring meditation into hospitals, schools, and corporate environments, supported by growing scientific evidence of its benefits for physical and mental health. The physical practice of yoga underwent its own global expansion. Televised yoga classes, paperback yoga manuals, and eventually online videos and apps made the practice increasingly accessible. A 2016 survey found that over 36 million Americans practiced yoga, with millions more practicing worldwide. While modernization brought greater accessibility, it also raised questions about the authenticity and cultural appropriation. Many contemporary teachers now strive to honor yoga and meditation's roots, while making the practices relevant to modern practitioners from diverse backgrounds. Today, yoga and meditation exist in countless forms across the globe. Scientific research continues to validate their benefits, with studies showing positive effects on stress reduction, emotional regulation, pain management, and cognitive function. Brain imaging studies reveal that long-term meditators show differences in brain structure and function, particularly in areas related to attention and emotional processing. Research at laboratories in universities worldwide has documented how regular meditation practice can increase the thickness of the cerebral cortex in areas associated with attention and sensory processing. Functional MRI scans show how the default mode network, brain regions active during mind wandering, becomes quieter in experienced meditators, potentially explaining the increased focus and present moment awareness they report. Studies of yoga practitioners have documented improvements in flexibility, balance, and strength, but also more surprising benefits: enhanced immune function, improved cardiovascular health, and better regulation of the nervous system. The integration of movement, breath, and awareness appears to trigger responses in the body that modern medicine is only beginning to fully understand. Modern neuroscience has, in many ways, confirmed what ancient practitioners discovered through direct experience: that regular meditation can transform the mind, just as yoga practice can transform the body. The integration of these practices into healthcare represents a full circle journey. In ancient India, yoga was considered a holistic health system long before the separation of medicine and spirituality. Now, these practices are once again being recognized for their therapeutic potential, with yoga and meditation prescribed alongside conventional treatments. Digital technology has both expanded access and created new challenges. Meditation apps offer guided practices to millions who might never enter a meditation center, while online yoga classes bring expert instruction to remote locations. As our journey through the history of yoga and meditation comes to a close, we can appreciate how these practices have evolved over thousands of years, while maintaining their essential purpose: to cultivate awareness, ease suffering, and reveal deeper dimensions of human experience. As you rest here now, your body comfortable and your mind quieting, you're participating in a tradition that spans millennia. The simple, yet profound act of being present, aware, and at peace. As sleep approaches, know that these ancient practices will continue their journey through time, evolving with each new generation, while remaining at their core timeless invitations to discover the peace that dwells within.